Hey Dallas, hey Sami, welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
Hey guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
We are thrilled to have you on the show because you guys did something that most people have not been able to do and a lot of people want to do, and that's pay off a bunch of debt. So we're super glad that you came on to share your story with the audience. But before we get into your story, can you just take a moment and introduce yourself to everybody that's listening and let them know what you're all about?
Yeah, we're Dallas and Sami Hageman, and like you said, we started our debt-free journey. It's more like 19 months ago now, but I created a personal finance blog out of it just to kind of chronicle what we were doing and maybe help inspire other people kind of like you are. So that's how we all got connected.
Yep, and I'm Dallas, and I'm her lesser half, but very proud to be her partner. And yeah, we started 19 months ago, not really knowing where on earth anything was going to go, just hoping that we'd be able to make a dent in our debt, and come to find out we were able to pay it off. And so it's been an incredible journey, and just happy to be on this side of it instead of the other side.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's talk about the debt. How much debt was it in total? And it took you guys 19 months to pay it off. And what type of debt was it?
Yeah, so we had $186,000 in debt when we started. Our final payoff number was $195,000. So there's some interest in there that we accumulated in those 18 months it took us. We had student loans, a vehicle loan, and some credit card debt, and I think that's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It adds up real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, there's a mortgage in there too.
About to say 18 months. And
Amazing.
wait. So you guys paid off 100 and did you say 80?
The grand total
195,000.
And under 2 years, $195,000 worth of debt. Wow.
Amazing.
Okay, now take us back to, well, you told us about the finish line. Let's go back to the starting line a little bit. The type of debt that you listed is the type of debt that a lot of people have. It's not uncommon to have a student loan, car payment, a mortgage. You know, the American dream is to own a home. So what was it that caused you all to have a moment where you said that although this is typical, normal, we don't want this debt in our lives anymore? How did you all get to the point to even have that conversation or that thought process to get out of debt in the first place?
Well, we'd had multiple conversations. It's just the two of us. We don't have any children. We make fairly good money, and we thought, gosh, there's no reason we should have this stuff hanging over us. You know, it doesn't make sense. We're doing something wrong. We knew we were doing something wrong. I have an accounting degree. I have an MBA. That was a student loan debt. And I was thinking that, you know, I know what I'm doing. I don't need help. They taught me how to do this in school. And I was really wrong, by the way. But we just had a lot of conversations about, gosh, we just can't seem to make headway. We make extra debt payments, but we weren't really. We were budgeting, but we weren't really. And then finally, one day we were in church and they announced a financial class, and he kind of looked over at me and said, hey, we should take that. And I was, of course, reluctant, you know, the accounting degree and the MBA. I know what I'm doing. I don't need anyone to tell me. But so I thought, okay, let's do it. Let's take it. And we took it, and I learned the first night that I knew nothing. They did not teach us how to handle personal finances in high school, in college, even in accounting courses. Like, it's way different. So that's kind of really how it worked. We kind of just fell into it and then took it and ran. We took the information we learned and ran with it.
We started realizing that, you know, the keeping up with the Joneses, everybody wants to keep up with the Joneses. We started realizing that the Joneses were unhappy. And the Joneses were idiots because they didn't know what they were doing either. And so if a lot of people don't know what they're doing and they're getting into copious amounts of debt, then why keep going with the flow and trying to do what everybody else is doing? And so we had to change our mindset. But once your mindset's changed, it's kind of like a diet. Once you decide you want to lose weight, it's not easy, but it's a lot easier than you would think.
Yeah. So we weren't we hadn't hit rock bottom. Thankfully, we we're really new in our marriage. We've only been married for 3 years, so we hadn't had those major, massive arguments that you have in marriages over money. We hadn't gotten to that point yet, but we were certainly on that track. If we would have kept going the way we were, that would have been soon in our future. So, it was just one of those things that he was kind of like, hey, let's do this. And I'm like, all right.
Yep.
So talk about the fact that you guys were newly married. I mean, most times when people are newly married, they're traveling the world. They're probably going out to restaurants a lot. I don't know. I think we did some of that, right? Yeah. But so talk about that. Talk about some of the sacrifices and that you all had to make in order to make sure that you all got out of debt quicker.
Yeah, we learned quickly. So we started zero-based budgeting, and we learned quickly that we had money left over at the end of the month that we would say we were going to put toward debt, but we would always go to the grocery store and throw that DVD in the shopping cart, or go out and have an extra night out on the weekend and spend a couple $100 or whatever the case may be. I mean, we were just like frittering it away. It was unbelievable. Once we started zero-based budgeting and actually telling our money where to go and not giving ourselves any room to creep into those extra debt payments, that's where we really had power, where we could really do something with the money we had. We stopped wasting at the grocery store. We stopped, going out as often. We cut down on our expenses. We don't have cable. We do like the Hulu thing, but we don't have cable. We sold a lot of stuff. So I had a motorcycle. We sold our condo. We had a condo that we actually had as an investment property. We sold that. We listed his motorcycle and then took it off because we were heartbroken that we were selling it. So we decided.
I couldn't do it.
So we decided since we could pay that off in a year, we would keep it. So we kept that. So that maybe wasn't a sacrifice, but we said no a lot. And we made decisions to not do things, to not go out with friends, sit at home, just find frugal ways to enjoy our time instead of going out to the movie or whatever.
Well, and to kind of go off your question too, a lot of new couples go out and they go on vacation, they do all this stuff, and that's all well and good. I don't want to knock that at all, but I didn't want to be that couple that drug around debt from our past, my past and her past. I didn't want to be that couple that drug it around like a bunch of luggage. If you want to start off a relationship the right way to keep it going, why continue with that baggage that was brought into the marriage? And that was one thing, that we could get rid of really easily. Mm-hmm. Well, not easily, but with a little bit of work. And so we started thinking end game, where do we want to retire? Do we want to retire early? Where do we want to go? It'd be nice to go on vacation now, but if we said no now and started building up wealth now, then maybe we could retire a lot earlier, buy an RV or do whatever we want on the back end. So instead of lugging around her debt and my debt and sitting there for the next 30 years being miserable that it's with us, just tackle it, get rid of it so we can move on with life.
Yeah.
Great plan. Look, it worked. Now, you said you have a accounting degree, MBA, and you still have to learn how to budget because you said it wasn't the same. How important was it for you to learn how to master budgeting, and how hard was it for you to learn it?
So the first part of that question, how important is it to learn it? Single-handedly, the reason we were able to do what we did, sacrificing, yes, saying no, yes, selling a bunch of stuff, that really helped. But the budgeting aspect, learning that and mastering that is something that we will budget that way every month for the rest of our lives, period, even if we have millions of dollars. Because otherwise, it's so easy to run out and waste it. And honestly, we've been given a gift with that money, so we need to treat it right, or we won't be given that gift to that money anymore. So it's kind of one of those things that if you want more of it, you got to learn how to prepare and be wise with it. And so the budgeting piece, like I said, while we did all that other stuff, the budgeting part of it is wholeheartedly the reason we were able to do what we did. It is just hands down the reason we were able to accomplish what we accomplished. Now, in college and in accounting school and in my master's degree, they teach you how to budget for a business, right? How to run a business, but you can definitely zero-based budget with a business. I'm sure. I haven't tried that or applied it, but the methods and the way they teach you how to handle money in school is way different. I mean, they're teaching you how to handle cash flow and how to deal with, a successful multi-million-dollar business, right? Like that's a little bit different of a bank account than what you have when you're first married. And so the two don't really go hand in hand. They don't meet. There's nothing really similar. But that said, I think it was probably easier for me to learn that budgeting skill just because of my background. I was able to throw it into a spreadsheet, the same spreadsheet I use every day. But with that said, I don't think it's hard to learn either. I think it's something like he doesn't have a numbers background. In fact,
I hate numbers. I hate numbers.
I want to talk about it in nauseam, and he's like, okay, enough.
But I think people can overcomplicate a budget too.
Yep.
Sometimes when you hear budget, you think you need a calculus or whatever. And she's really good with numbers. I'm terrible with them. But budgets, if you can get it simplified enough, like we did, it's not hard at all to understand. And that's what I like. And once you wrap your mind around it and you just, essentially a budget's telling your money where you want it to go every month. It's not telling you where it wants to go. You're telling it where to go. And so if you simplify your budget and don't overthink it, don't overcomplicate it, that budget can actually become your friend, and you'll like the word budget instead of, like, well, I'll bring it back to a diet again. So a lot of people hate the word diet until you start feeling better and you're physically fit, and then it's a good word.
Yep.
Same thing with a budget. People hate budget until this starts working and you don't have any debt left and you start building up savings, and then it becomes a really good word that you cling to all the time.
Or even while we were paying off the debt, I remember making that first major payment and thinking to myself, wow, this could really work. We could actually do this. It's such a powerful tool to learn and to master. And I always tell people on my blog and everything, give yourself grace. Don't beat yourself up. Like, it's not easy. It's not something you just go into, learn overnight. I always figure it takes 90, 120 days to master it. That said, I screwed it up a couple of months ago. So it's like, it's going to happen. Don't freak out. That's why you have your emergency fund, hopefully, so that you can buffer anything that you do as a mistake, and just use it as a tool. And yeah, it's critical.
Yep.
Now, Dallas, being that you're the self-proclaimed non-numbers guy, how tough was it for you to jump on board and to be part of the process and to wrap your brain around it? Like you said, once you do that, it's fine. But being that you weren't the numbers guy and it's not your thing, there's some husbands listening probably in the same boat. Like, I don't want anything to do with the budget. I'm not a numbers guy. How were you able to get on board and get in the fight?
Well, at first there's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, it's just not. It's the little bit of a learning curve, but people can learn. It's amazing what people can grasp if they just put a little bit of action to it. It's amazing, what you can learn and do and accomplish if you just put a little bit of interest and action into it. And I'm amazed at how many people shy away from money that they work so hard to get. I mean, you spend minimum 40 hours a week at a job that a lot of people don't like. Well, you spend that 40 hours to earn money, and then all of a sudden you're not interested in where that money goes. I mean, why not? If you take just a little bit of time and understand, okay, let me figure out a way to tell my money where to go. Here's a vessel to do that. I would say that for me, it wasn't that hard to grasp numbers wise, because once you you have your paycheck outlined, and then you've got your bills lined up, and you balance it. A zero-based balance is you balance it down to $1 or $0, so there's no money in your account essentially. But it's fairly easy to grasp, and if you understand how much you're getting in your paycheck, then you can understand budgets.
I think too. So something about our story is the majority of the debt that we had was actually mine. So coming into our marriage, I had the mortgage, I had the student loan debt, massive amounts of student loan debt. And, it would have been really easy for Dallas to say, you know what, that's your mess from before, so you figure out how to deal with that. But he didn't do that. It's something that he knew about, obviously, before we got married.
Yeah, it wasn't a surprise.
By the way, folks, have that conversation before you say yes or anything like that. But he knew about it. But it was something that was like, you know what? We're in this together. We said I do. We made those vows, and we're going to work on this, and we're going to tackle it together, and then we're going to move on. It's not going to be this big burden on us anymore. So that's really important, and something that he did very well and was awesome about.
I'm kind of springboarding off that. I'm kind of amazed at how many couples don't have a joined account. So they have their own checkbooks, and then they spend whatever they need to on bills, and that's just the way it works. And if that works for them, then I'm not decrying that fact, but I viewed marriage as a partnership in everything, right? Either you're partnering with somebody or you're not. I mean, but you can't be in the middle. And yeah, I could have complained because I think I owed like $23,000 and the rest was hers. Well, I could have pitched a fit like a kid and screamed and hollered, but that would have gotten nowhere except driven a rift in between us. So instead of working against each other and me throwing a fit for the next 30 or 40 years until she paid it off, and which would not have done either one of us good because we would have accrued interest on top of that. Mm-hmm. So instead of throwing a fit, you just say, all right, well, this is the way it is. This is reality. I can either throw a fit and drive a wedge in our marriage or suck it up, help her pay for it, and then move on with our lives. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it took 18 months to do that. So you could either, in my view, you could either spend 30 years with a kind of rocky marriage or suck it up for 18 months and then have a marriage that not only is a lot better because you went through something that was kind of sucky, but you went through it and you took care of it. And now you've got nothing but the future to look forward to.
Sounds like you made the right choice, Dallas.
I did with her. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a major obstacle that you all overcame early on in the marriage. And I want to talk a little bit more about some obstacles that may have crept up along the way during your journey. We're going to talk about that a little bit more right after this commercial break.
Love reading, but wish you had more time to get into your favorite books? What if you could use the time you already have and listen to the books you already love? Well, now you can with Audible. With Audible books, you can be inspired, entertained, and educated anywhere, anytime. Choose from the bestsellers in self-development, business, nonfiction, and more. So what are you waiting for? Your first 30 days are free. Visit hisandhermoney.com/audible to get started today. That's hisandhermoney.com/audible.
Now, when we left off, you guys talked about the fact that Sami had a bunch of debt. Dallas, you had a smaller amount, and you all decided to come together, that it wasn't going to be her debt and his debt. It was going to be our debt, and you guys conquered it together. But I'm sure in this journey that you guys went on, it wasn't all smooth sailing, that there had to be some obstacles that popped up along the way. Talk about some things that came up, surprised you, that almost took you off course, and how you were able to stay on track and ultimately accomplish your goals.
Well, I'm perfect, so that's all on her. No, there were things. I'm sure you can. I'm trying to think right now. You know, I would say, I mean, there were some barriers and obstacles, but couples fight the most about money. I mean, that's one of the predominant fights in marriage is about money. And even going through this, I think we had 2 fights? And they weren't even blowouts or anything. No. It was just kind of like a longer conversation than normal about finances. And you hear some people, and I have been previously married before, and we fought quite a bit about money. And we just have never had that fight because we've been unified on this. But can you think of...
Yeah, when I think of obstacles while we're paying off debt, there's the occasional spur of the moment trip we want to take that, you got to be a grown up. You can't go wherever you want to go all the time. That's just not how this world works. So there's that. There's, we, like I said, we sold our condo. We live in northern Colorado where real estate is just like hopping. And,
bad.
it was like, oh, I really want a nice house. We live in a rental and I really want a pretty house like what all my friends have. So it's kind of that keeping up with the Joneses mentality that we all, I think that's something that we will always have to combat and kind of try to curb, because it's so prevalent and so around us no matter what we do. So that was certainly an obstacle. Another obstacle, we didn't have a lot of people around us that understood what we were doing. So we had people looking at us like we were absolutely crazy.
Still do.
Yeah.
Still do.
So, it's cool that what we accomplished, and we're excited about it, but it was still hard to not have people all around us really like cheering us on and being super excited. Not to their fault, they just don't understand. They just didn't understand what we're moving toward and what we're doing. So that's kind of what I think about when I think about obstacles. We also have been trying to build businesses on the side. And when you're paying off debt with intensity like that, there's not a lot of extra money to do that. So we had to have a lot of those kind of conversations. Okay, if we do that, if we go for that business opportunity, then we won't be able to pay off debt as quickly. And now that conversation still stands. It's just now we won't save as quickly, right? It's still the same conversation. It's just a different goal.
Yeah. I would say that, we had our little disagreements, but we always came to a conclusion. It was never a blowout, and we always agreed at the end of the day. And I think it actually grew us together more, because it got us talking about more things than just money, but it had us tackle challenges on a daily basis and had us talk through things. And so it really was a lot better. It was a marriage grower, which you wouldn't think about when you're going through this massive amount of debt payoff. You'd just think it'd be like miserable, tuna fish every day and night. Just try to save money. It'd be a miserable time, but it really wasn't. And we were still able to go on some vacations and whatnot, and
paid cash for those, and
so there wasn't
we
any.
Still lived our lives.
Yeah.
We just did it with more intention and more carefully than what we were doing before.
Yeah.
Now, I heard you guys mention that you all were able to sell a condo.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you guys sold the condo, did that put down a large chunk of the $195,000 that you all paid off?
Huge. Yeah. So somehow when I was 19, I was able to buy a condo right before the downturn with no cosigner. So I don't know if that banker's out there listening, don't do that anymore. Because I could have really failed, but I didn't somehow. But we had a condo. We moved to a neighboring community, and when we moved, I loved that condo. I loved that place, and so I wasn't ready to get rid of it. Let's be honest. So I'm like, let's keep it, and we'll rent it out. That's a great income, and then we'll have an investment property forever. So we moved to a neighboring community, and we kept that. We had a great renter. She was paying on time. She was perfect with it. And then we got into this class. And I think we were probably 3 weeks into this class, and it was like, you got to get rid of it. You got to sell it. That is one great way to get rid of this fast. And so I sent her an email, and I'm like, hey, any chance we can break our lease? Or do you want to buy it from me by chance? Well, she wasn't interested in buying it, but she wanted to break the lease too. So it worked out, like the timing was perfect because she was ready to go buy her own property. And so, like I said, we live in a hot market where we're at. We probably sold, I bought it on the low, and we sold it on the high. So somehow, again, I did that perfectly. Looking back, when I was 19, I had no idea that I was paying for part of my college education by buying that thing. And I would not suggest that. I would not suggest a 19-year-old go out and get a 30-year mortgage. Do not do that. I'm not saying that at all. But looking back, I'm glad I did. It did. It worked out. We were able to pay down the mortgage. So obviously the mortgage was gone. So that was $82,000. And then we made $45,000 off of that thing. So it was it was surreal. I remember we were actually on a trip when we got the proceeds. A realtor called, and we were in a Harley dealership.
Right in the middle, just looking at a new Harley, and said, you got 45 grand in the bank. And I turned around and said, this is a really bad time to tell me that, right? just had to pull me out of there, literally.
Yeah. So it's funny
Oh.
the little things you remember, but I remember sitting in that, we cash flowed that trip. We're sitting in the hotel and I'm logging on and making those payments. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I never spent $45,000 so quickly in my life. It was like, poof,
5
it's
minutes. Yep.
But yeah,
Well-
it was a good move. Something we honestly took slack for that. People were like, "You are crazy for selling that thing. That's a
Yeah.
great investment property. You could make more money off of it." But you know what?
Well, and
10 years, maybe we can buy another one.
to add to that too, with the investment, and you can make money because we're making top dollar for a rental property because our market's insane. But we sat down and this is something where a budget is good and it's nice to figure out where your money's going. We figured out that we were spending a month more interest than we were bringing in from that rental.
Yeah.
So if we sold it and paid off all that debt, we'd actually it would be ahead to not bring in that rent and pay it off for all that interest. So just sitting down and not understanding that, you think, well, that's you guys are stupid. Why'd you sell the condo? You're bringing in a lot of rent, but when you penciled it out, it made more sense. And in the end, now we're set up to. I mean, we're already saving a house, and we've got a plan to pay that off in 5 years, and then buy an investment property. So instead of the investment property, it's kind of cart before the horse, where you buy an investment property and I'll pay down the mortgage in 30 years. Well, why not become debt free, get set up financially, and then start building so you can pay off a house when you buy it.
And how crazy is it to have an investment property before you own your own home? Like, we weren't even living there. Come on.
Yeah.
I would agree with you myself, but there are some people out there that actually do that, right?
I think y'all made the right
I
move.
do too. Yep. And you made a good point. You have to sit down and count up the cost. Here it is, you guys were actually paying more in interest. So in actuality, you actually received a raise once you sold this place. So yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So talk about the budgeting again. Did you guys use a special software? Did you use pen and paper, Excel? How did you guys do that?
Nope. So I'm an Excel nerd. So like I said, I'm an accountant. So I created the very first class we took. I came home and I created a budget in Excel, and I've kind of massaged it and changed it somewhat, but we still use that same spreadsheet today. I give it out now to my folks on my blog, and they can use it as a tool too. And we never really did the pen and paper. I really should research some of those apps because I hear they're like amazing. But I like Excel, so that's what we're using.
Well, it's nice. We did a little bit sit down and do like a pen and paper at the very first, just to kind of get us both on the same page. And then with Excel, she walked me through it and showed me what we were doing, so I understood it. And I think that's key too, is when you're both partnering together, make sure your partner understands what the heck is going on. So she sat down and she said, okay, here's where I put this and where it calculates out here. So I understood it. So now I can go back through and look at it too. So we're both on the same page. She likes to revise it all the time, and that's fine with me.
I'm one of those weird people that thinks that's fun. So
Yeah. She'll go in Excel and then she'll manually balance the checkbook. But
I have the checkbook in Excel too.
you don't have to be that crazy, but it's nice having an accountant here as well. But she just made sure that I understood it, and I would ask questions if I didn't understand it. And then we both sat down, and once we're both on board and we get it, then we approve the budget together and then send it out.
Now, you all had a unique twist that you brought up earlier that I think a lot of people are having discussions about, especially married couples. You said that you all, while you all were going through this journey of paying off a bunch of debt, you all were also establishing businesses. And a lot of people are questioning, like, okay, should we direct every single dollar, that Dave Ramsey phrase, gazelle intensity, to getting out of debt? But I have this business idea, and I think it would be great. So how did you all come to a consensus of we'll throw this much at debt and we'll use this much as seed money for the company? Like, help people think through debt payoff versus business dreams.
So both of the businesses that we have been building are virtual. So, startup costs on those should be typically fairly low. I mean, you have to build the website and do all that good stuff. So we honestly just approach every expense like we do in our personal finances, and we just talk about it. And we make those decisions together, and we both understand what it looks like if we're going to spend an extra $400, on one of our businesses. We know what that looks like. So, like I said, we just have that conversation and layer that into our budget if we need to do that, or however we make it work. But we weren't investing, thousands upon thousands of dollars in either of those, but we still sacrificed and we still made decisions. It's opportunity cost, right? So it's the same thing with personal finance too, by the way. It's like, okay, if we buy XYZ, there's a consequence for that. And I don't mean consequence in a negative way. The consequence can be good or bad. And so we just have to weigh that out and decide what that looks like, and make as wise a decision with our money as we possibly can, so that hopefully we can multiply that eventually and build something. But we weren't looking to throw everything into these businesses, give them, all of our money so that we would have, some crazy ROI. We wanted to lay the groundwork, do it wisely, and hopefully create something that we can, invest in the future.
I think recurring in my mind while she was talking is the word intentional. Just be intentional with your finances. If you want to start a business, great. If you want to sink all your money into it, great. Just know that that's going to cost you on the back end of paying off debt. I mean, a lot of people can say, well, people that go off of Dave Ramsey's program or other programs, and if you don't do A, B, C, D, or E, you're going to fail. It's not true. Every situation is unique to you. You just need to go into it with eyes wide open, saying, okay, if we're going to spend $1,000 on a business, then that's $1,000 less than we're going to be able to pay off on debt, and who knows how much interest, or it's $1,000 less that we're going to have to put to savings. So it's intentionality that's really, I think, the key to it. I mean, we didn't have to keep the motorcycle. That's one thing that was on me. We owed $17,000 on it. And by Dave Ramsey standards and a lot of other people's standards, we should have sold it. We decided, no, we like that. We enjoy it. We're going to keep it. Did that cost us in the long run? Yeah, it did. We had to pay off more interest every month.
And it took us longer to be debt free.
But we went into that and we had that conversation intentionally and knowing what it was going to cost us. And then we said yay or nay.
Mm-hmm. Love that. So walk us through that moment when you guys paid off that last debt payment.
So I think it's different for both of us. To be honest with you, I don't think it's really hit me yet that we're debt free. It's like the weirdest thing. I almost feel like we did something wrong. It's really weird because my whole adult life I've been in debt. So I never really thought there would be a day when I didn't owe someone money. So we made that last payment, and it was kind of like, this is weird. And I cried. Like, I definitely cried. I was grateful to him for coming alongside me and helping me do that, pay off a massive amount that I brought into this marriage. But I don't know. It wasn't like, like a huge sigh of relief. I felt like it should have been. And maybe I romanticize things and I want fireworks and all that junk, and I didn't get that because it's not in the budget. But it was surreal. And it honestly still is. I mean, we've been debt free for, what is it, maybe 45 days now. And it's just, I don't know, it hasn't quite hit me yet. Maybe when I see that bank account balance really be healthy, I'll really consider where we're at.
I think for me, it was different for me because I had been debt free once before when I was single a long time ago. I didn't owe much. I mean, I owed like $5,000, and you pay that off in debt free, yay, and whatever. But so I knew there wasn't going to be any fanfare or fireworks or anything. So I wasn't really expecting that. But for me, I think my intensity grew. Because now, instead of paying some banker that doesn't even know your name, they just know you by a number, you're paying into your future. So that dollar that you saved goes directly into your future, into maybe of that vacation home you've got your eye on, or when you retire, you want to buy an RV or whatever. I don't care. It became more intense for me. And I mean, we were intense while we were paying off debt, but now I'm like, we can keep saving money, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
He's like going around the house finding stuff to
Yeah,
sell.
the day we
I'm
got
like,
debt free, I started selling even more stuff. She's like, what are you doing?
I mean, I thought we
"What's all
sold
this?"
everything we could, but this guy's got like stacks of stuff in the garage, and he's on
Yeah.
Craigslist doing his thing. And
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just, well, I viewed it as now we can start bettering our future
Mm-hmm.
instead of some banker's future. And yeah, paying off debt, obviously, it bettered our future. But for me, I viewed it as a starting point where, okay, we're at the starting line. We need to go. We need to catch up. We need to get a good retirement and a savings account going so we can invest in a house and then a real estate someday. So it was kind of funny because we weren't on the same page when we became debt free. And neither one was a wrong reaction. It was just kind of funny to see how we reacted differently.
yeah.
Now, if there's somebody tuned in to the show who really loved your story and thought, man, that's so awesome for Dallas and Sami, but on the inside, they're not sure if they can do what you all did. They don't know if they have what it takes to become debt-free like you all are now. What words of encouragement would you speak to that person if you could talk to them one-on-one?
Yeah, so when Dallas and I first started dating, I told him about my debt very early on. I wanted to be very clear about what he was getting himself into. And I made a comment kind of insinuating I would be paying that off forever. I wouldn't be able to pay that off until I figured well into my 50s. And he asked a very logical question. Why? Why not? Why not you? And that really hit me and resonated. Yeah, why not me? And so if you're listening and you think, I just need to make the payments the way the bank told me to make the payments. They set your payment amount and they tell you when you're going to have it paid off. And that's kind of what I figured I would do. But if that's you and you're listening to this, I'm going to ask you, why not you? Why can't you be sitting in this seat? Why can't in 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, it doesn't matter how long it takes you. Why can't it be you on the other side of this conversation saying, yeah, we struggled, we worked hard, and we paid it off, and we are free.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to worry about paying anyone a dime ever again. Because the truth is it's not, we're not special. We're not.
Mm-mm.
We just used some tools, put them in place, set a plan, and attacked it together. But it is something that people can do. We're living proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're questioning and you think it's not possible, or you're assuming, well, they make a bunch of money and they don't have any kids. Okay, maybe that's true, maybe it's not true. But if you just use the tools and you put yourself on that path and you go after it with crazy intensity, you can do it too. There's no reason. So why not you?
I would add to hers too is don't believe the lies that you're fed by society.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody thinks they need to be in debt. Everybody thinks they need the newest car, the biggest house, the next best thing, the biggest TV, whatever. Don't believe those lies. If you really want to be out of debt, you can do it. Like Sami said, we're nothing special. In fact, we owed a lot of money. We just decided that we were sick and tired of owing that money. And, you may owe more, and it may take you longer to pay it off. That's okay. Know that you're unique. You're an individual that is completely separate and unique from our situation. But the important thing is that you start paying off debt now. If it's $1, pay off $1. We made numerous payments for under $4
For sure.
to debt.
We did that.
Sounds insane, and maybe it is, but you will be able to pay off that debt if you don't believe the lies and you keep going one foot in front of the other and just start now.
Mm-hmm. You won't regret paying off the debt. You'll just regret not starting sooner.
Mm-hmm.
It's great words of encouragement, guys. So tell everybody more about your awesome website and how they can stay connected to you.
Yeah, so I am the brains behind Eat, Pray, Budget. So my website is www.eatpraybudget.com, and all the social media is at Eat, Pray, Budget. You can go on there. I've got my budget templates I talked about. If you subscribe, I send those to you for free, right away, so you can grab those, and hopefully some good content and some tools to help you get started and maybe encourage you on the way. And yeah, that's where we're at.
And Dallas, what about your radio show? How do we tune in?
Well, it's called Wild Ride Radio. If you're into motorcycles at all, You're going to love the show. Go to wildrideradio.com. We podcast everywhere that they carry podcasts, or we're on some AM FM signals, but the best way to pick it up, just go to wildrideradio.com, and you can search for it on iTunes, TuneIn, Podbean, Stitcher, you name it. We're on there. So if you love motorcycles, that's a show to listen to.
Well, Dallas and Sammy, this has been incredible. It's been super inspiring, and we're grateful that you guys came on the show to share with our audience today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank
we really
you.
appreciate
it was
having
a pleasure.
us.
Yeah.